Hello, and welcome back to Poetry Lockdown. We're at day 335. And today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to bring you a long poem, a multi-part poem by a poet that I've admired for a long time. His name's Chris Abani, a Nigerian-born poet. And also, I should mention, a really terrific fiction writer. He's written a number of great novels. Um, I had the really, really good fortune of taking a poetry workshop with Chris Abani. It was about 5 years ago now. I was just impressed by a lot of things about him. One, that he's a terrifically generous and funny human being, but also he really taught me a lot about longer poems. And one of the things that he really impressed upon me was that it's not enough just to have like some moment that's really important to you personally. A good poem in some ways, like that like personal experience that you go to has got to be a vehicle for other people to enter into with your poem. And for him, what I remember from that class, and if I'm misquoting Chris Abani, he should tell me so maybe somewhere on the internet. But what I remember is that the image was key, right? And so, as before I start this really long poem that I really admire, I just want to say about Chris Abani's poetry, because I don't think I'm going to talk about it after I read it like I do with some of these other ones, because it's pretty long. But I just think he's a master of what I would call like a resonant image. I know that's maybe mixing metaphors because resonant is like sound, but that's how it feels to me, like an image that kind of stays with you, like kind of like a sound sort of echoes on the air. Yeah, his images haunt me. So yeah, and one of the things that I'll tell you about this poem, I'm still coming to grips with. I've been reading it. Honestly, I've read it like 4 or 5 times over the last week, and I'm not sure I understand all of it. I just know that I love it and I'm moved by it. The poem is called Pilgrimage. It's from a book he wrote, a collection of poems he wrote, which has a lot of long poems in it, called Sanctificum or Sanctificum. It's Latin. It means to be made holy. I honestly don't know how to pronounce it. But this poem's called Pilgrimage, and it's definitely a word, kind of rich with religious significance. And if I understand it right, the poem begins speaking and thinking about the poet's father, and it ends speaking and thinking about the poet's father. And so I think in some ways, I think the poem is kind of a going towards, and maybe the journey is the point of the poem. Anyways, it's a beautiful poem. All right, with that intro, let me read Chris Abani's Pilgrimage, 12 parts. Enjoy. Part 1. Nothing as definite as prayer. A hand cups a shadow. A heart is laid bare, open as a flower. Somewhere between care and cacophony, Los Angeles is alive. The city tonight stands outside of everything. We come tonight. We come to light. The city is a liar. May I find my way. Los Angeles is a dream we cannot bear. I think of streets black as any river and here. Over loud music, a woman calls to her lover. There is no truth here. The city is awash with lights. Even this sacrifice will not save us. I say hibiscus and mean innocence. I say guava and mean childhood. I say mosquito netting and I mean loss. I say father and it means only that. Happen that we all dream, but the sea is only sea. Happen that we call upon God, but it is only a breeze ruffling a prayer book in a small church where benches groan in the heat. Outside, a peacock will not be quiet. There are so many ways I could undo the night my father expired, if only I could find the fastenings of time. Here, the green grass is green, even with the abundance of home, even with the weight of exile. There is a tree in my father's backyard under which my umbilical is buried. There is no metaphor here. Bathing on a zinc sheet one night, I sliced my ankle to bleed my umbilical again. Look, there is a simple math to loss, to self, to aubergines. I can sing my father's lineage back half a millennia, but here in Starbucks, I struggle with Oprah to find myself, which is to say, I could accept the labels before me, but only a deeper cut will suffice. I am not an American, though I want to be. I am not a Nigerian, even though I have the melancholy. I am something deeper still. For now, Igbo, a placeholder. Also, sometimes Druid on my mother's side. And a red passport. People say, Christ, if I'd seen what you've seen. Christ, mercy, Jesus. This is my cry too. I have seen, but I am still lost. The fog will not part no matter how long I strike my staff against stone. There are slavers in my ancestry, slaves too. Some nights I wake with the bitter of rusty chains on my tongue, a whip in my hand. Avatars come and go and come again. There is only a map fading in the harsh sun. Some may call me a pessimist, but I am not. There is nothing gained from loss. I drink tea in the shade and believe in poetry. I am a zealot for optimism. 2. Every river is Jordan for the faithful. They came to the holy mountain by my college. They climbed for days in their white robes. They looked like a flock of egrets resting in the heat and green. Can a new sky be born? Nothing, I tell you, will slake your thirst. But Pepsi at a baseball game comes close. If I mourn for all the suffering in the world, then I have only my ego to blame. I mourn daily. How can I not? Let there be love. There are 20 strings in a Myanmar marionette. There are 54 ethnic groups in Vietnam. There are 250 ethnic groups in Nigeria. There are 100 petals on a blossom of a Japanese Kikuzukara cherry tree. I'm sorry, Chris Abani. Diwali lasts for only 5 days. Then the lights dim and we forget. 3. In Siena, the bells toll to mark the hour. Outside, birds sing. Also, scooters whine. In Nigeria, they were ridden by insurance agents in white shirts. Kids would scream, "American Life Mutual," as they kicked up dust in their whiny trail. As they say in France, c'est la vie. I am like a man climbing a mountain, but taking in none of the view. I don't know what faith is, but I know this much. I want to put my fingers in the wounds and swirl them around. Thomas has nothing on me. I was seduced as a boy by frankincense and smoke and altar lights and Latin mass and robes and wafers and wine and wooden pews dark with sweat and confessionals musty with lies and rosary beads worried for a vision. Then Buddha and the romance of Tibet. If Zeno's paradox reveals anything, it is not that space and time can be divided into infinity infinitely, but simply this, that we can only approximate the object of our desire, that we are always on a train traveling to happiness. But what we do reach are coffee, biscotti, and Bob on the iPod. Alexandria in Egypt is both a city and a library. Hope and destination. The world is often like this. Some things look like blood, some even taste like mud and rust. They are not blood. They are not. 4. And God stands in disdain as we supplicate. If love is your nature, you will find it. The frayed carpet and plastic-covered chairs were the stage for my aunt's faith. Dipping hard dough bread into milky sweet tea, she unleashed her anger at the world in prayer. In another life, she could have been a dancer. In this one, she is a Christian. In Zimbabwe, Mugabe betrays a people who make excuses for him. This is what it is to be a president in Africa. Fuck you, high quality. Bathroom graffiti, Siena. In Nazi Germany, a student resistance group called White Rose. Who knew? Their slogan, Wir schweigen nicht. We too will not be silent. In June and July 1994, OJ made the cover of Newsweek. By the time the Rwandan genocide made the cover, in August, 1 million were dead. 4 million displaced. 5. Let me know this too. The sting of orange zest in my eyes, and chocolate decadent and truffled and dancing, and milk fresh and bubbling from a goat, and the wind holding me as I free fall from a plane and wonder at a goldfish's infinite curiosity, and cats and dogs, and a child's hand brushing my face, and wings, and still rain, and still rain. 6. The root of the word salary is sal, salt, to be paid in salt. Salt is the weight, salt is the worth, salt is this body. Say pepper, say amen. Some people are necromancers. They summon repeatedly the body of their pain. Sometimes I am like that, dissecting the dead. Sometimes I am merely a practitioner of nostalgia, like those heady Nigerian afternoons filled with munching sugar cane, the molding of fufu for the dip into stew, fingers fishing for morsels of delight, the cold slake of coconut water fresh from a nut. Good fiction is simply the capacity to remember your life, and yet simultaneously realize you are inventing every memory. When I was a child, South Africa was a story about men so deep into the despair of a bottle, dreams dark as the coal they worked. When I was a child, vampires lived behind the water tank, skirted by the modesty of elegant green bamboo. Now, as a man in the cafe in Siena, I declare, those fucking Germans, those fucking Germans. So what is my excuse now? 7. It is easy to forget the decadence of glass. How some of us find it only in fragments. The glass between us and the world is often the measure of our wealth. Looking out at the world through it colors the hunger beyond. 8. Growing up, Emeka was albino. How we feared his pink skin and red eyes, how we loathed him. To my shame, I never ate with him, saying, I just ate. And to my sister under my breath, he disgusts me. She never told on me, but made me wait while she ate with him. Same plate, no utensils. Her eyes never leaving mine. 9. Courage is often invisible. Old women who buy their own groceries. Mothers who become shadow. Women who speak and are not heard until a man says, of course, of course. Children walking through minefields. Palestinians who don't throw stones, wanting only food and life for their children. Palestinians who throw stones, wanting only food and life for their children. Israelis who eat in cafes. People who feed the homeless. People who don't feed the homeless but love their children well. People who love animals. Young people who will not be fettered. Old people who will not die quietly. Women who dance with wolves. Women who care for the dying. People who speak of rage and abuse. People who suffer pain with a smile. People who suffer pain loudly. People who speak up for their beliefs. Children who protect other children. Homeless children who smile. People who have to navigate worlds designed consciously or not to keep them out. Being black anywhere in the 21st century. 10. In Siena, in a beautiful cafe on Piazza del Campo, drinking coffee while Eastern European refugees beg, a man says to me, literature in Italy is not like it is in Nigeria. There is no suffering here. We have no problems to fight. The clock on the tower says 4 p.m. What can be said to a man listening to Bob Marley on a train speeding through Tuscany? 11. To see the Verrazzano Bridge disappear into fog on a sunny Brooklyn day. 12. Tonight I am waiting alone in my hotel room. I am not waiting for a lover, imagined or real. I am waiting for my father, which is to say, my dead father. What I want to understand is overwhelming. The way a trap door in the floor holds nightmare. I've lost all sense of scale. The father I wait for is not real. He is not the man who died 5 years ago, and yet he cannot bend into metaphor. I want to say I love him. Bart would say I do. You do because you are waiting. The way a plane cuts through clouds, like the mandarin waiting for the courtesan for 99 days. Like Blake setting a place for God. Like the red vines I try to wrap around my rage. The tender gesture says, ask me anything. That was Chris Abani, Pilgrimage. Thank you, Chris Abani, for this beautiful poem, and thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Peace.